Thanks for joining us on Arirang News. I'm Kim Dami in Seoul. President Yoon Suk-yeol jumped into his NATO Summit visit with a series of bilateral summits with leaders in Washington, D.C., including Japanese Prime Minister Fumio Kishida and the leaders of Germany and Canada. They all voiced concerns over North Korea and Russia's snowballing military cooperation, which they warned would be dealt with sternly by the international community. And NATO leaders issued a joint communique with a serious rebuke against China, saying Beijing is a decisive enabler of Russia's war against Ukraine. They then urged China to act responsibly in space as well as in cyberspace. South Korea's Bank of Korea decided to leave its key interest rate as it is for the 12th time straight at 3.5%. High household debt and moderating inflation led to a record-long series of rate freezes. President Yoon Suk-yeol landed in Washington, D.C. on Wednesday to attend the NATO Summit. But before he attends the official sessions, President Yoon held back-to-back meetings with NATO members and Japan, highlighting the threat of Russia and North Korea's military collaboration. Our correspondent Oh Soo-young starts us off.
Building solidarity, President Yoon Suk-yeol gained the backing of various NATO partners on countering Russia and North Korea's military cooperation and its threat to global security. This came as the South Korean leader engaged in a series of bilateral meetings on the sidelines of the NATO Summit held in Washington, D.C., representing Seoul as an invited partner country for the third consecutive year. According to his Deputy National Security Advisor Kim Tae-ho, the president met with leaders from 7 countries, including Canada, the Netherlands, Sweden, the Czech Republic, Finland and Japan, emphasizing the growing connection between Indo-Pacific and North Atlantic security interests. In light of Russia and North Korea last month forging a pact to aid each other militarily in the face of aggression.
The leaders agreed that the illegal military cooperation between Russia and North Korea poses a serious threat to security beyond the Korean Peninsula, to the Indo-Pacific and Europe. They resolved to strengthen solidarity among nations that share core values and uphold the rules-based international order, and to firmly respond to Russia-North Korea military cooperation.
The South Korean leader and Japanese Prime Minister Fumio Kishida notably met for the second time this year, and the 11th time since Yoon's inauguration, as the two neighbors agreed to work closely with like-minded countries. Yoon noted that the recent developments between Russia and North Korea highlight the importance of the Camp David trilateral cooperation between South Korea, the US and Japan, which have been ramping up their joint military exercises and intelligence sharing to counter North Korea's continued provocations. The leader of the Netherlands also agreed to work closely with South Korea on denuclearizing North Korea and countering Pyongyang's cooperation with Moscow, while German Chancellor Olaf Scholz expressed his country's intention to join the United Nations Command, which has had a presence on the Korean Peninsula since the 1950-53 Korean War. Yoon welcomed the move, deeming it a demonstration of Berlin's commitment to upholding a rules-based international order and contributing to peace and stability on the Korean Peninsula. Also, Yoon met the Canadian Prime Minister and discussed their evolving security partnership through their 2+2 foreign and defence high-level dialogue, indicating a strong level of cooperation between two like-minded countries for global and regional security in the Indo-Pacific. Seoul, along with other Indo-Pacific partners of NATO, Japan, Australia and New Zealand, will convene separately on Thursday morning and issue their own statement criticising Moscow and Pyongyang, according to Yoon's office. Continuing his marathon of one-on-one meetings in D.C., President Yoon also plans to sit down with NATO Secretary-General Jens Stoltenberg, along with the new UK Prime Minister Keir Starmer and the leaders of Norway, Luxembourg and Poland.
However, in countering the Russia-North Korea axis, all eyes are on whether a meeting with US President Joe Biden will take place on Thursday before the South Korean leader heads to Seoul. Yoon's office says both allied countries are aware of the need for even a brief meeting between their leaders in a formal standalone setting, and that currently they are trying to make the meeting happen. Oh Soo-young, Arirang News, Washington, D.C.
While security issues topped the talking points for President Yoon and NATO, he also didn't miss the opportunity to speak directly with his counterparts on economic cooperation. As he sat down on the sidelines with a NATO leader for discussions on nuclear power plants and critical minerals, President Yoon made sure to enhance cooperation with like-minded countries. Our Kim Do-yeon reports.
President Yoon Suk-yeol is utilizing the NATO Summit in Washington, D.C. to enhance economic cooperation with member nations. This as he met with the leaders of 6 NATO member countries on the sidelines during his first day of the multilateral summit on Wednesday. They were Germany, Canada, Netherlands, Sweden, Czech Republic, and Finland. In regard to discussions over nuclear power plants, the top office says President Yoon appealed to 4 leaders from the Czech Republic, Netherlands, Finland, and Sweden that South Korea's nuclear energy technology is among the best in the world. South Korea and France are currently competing to be the preferred supplier for a project with up to 4 new units in the Czech Republic, with a final decision imminent.
President Yoon emphasized to President Pavel that South Korea possesses the world's best construction capabilities and overwhelming price competitiveness. He stressed that if South Korea is selected as the contractor, it would significantly contribute to the development of the nuclear power sector in the Czech Republic.
Critical minerals were also part of discussions as Sweden has Europe's largest deposit of rare earth minerals. South Korea and Sweden, as members of the Minerals Security Partnership, agreed to cooperate for the critical mineral supply chain. In the meantime, it was President Yoon's first time meeting with the new Dutch Prime Minister Dick Schoof, who took office earlier this month. South Korea and the Netherlands recently formed a CHIPS alliance to get the best out of South Korea's chip manufacturing capacity and the Netherlands' lithography technology. And the new Dutch Prime Minister says the change in government doesn't change that level of cooperation.
Prime Minister Schoof emphasized that South Korea plays a very important role in the semiconductor supply chain and suggested continuing the semiconductor cooperation between the two countries.
The top office says that the opportunity was used to, quote, reinforce the stepping stones for the nation's companies, and it's not done. While the main NATO summit and the IP4 summit are set to happen on Thursday, on the last day of President Yoon's trip, the top office also says that President Yoon will squeeze in more bilateral meetings in between main events to maximize face-to-face opportunities. Kim Do-yeon, Arirang News, Washington, D.C.
And NATO leaders came up with a joint statement vowing lasting support for Ukraine, while calling out China once again for contributing to Russia's war efforts against Ukraine. Yoon has the details.
On Wednesday in Washington, the 32 nation leaders of NATO issued a joint declaration announcing a membership pledge for Ukraine, which also strongly condemned China's support for Russia. The declaration announced a long-term commitment to security assistance for Ukraine. A new NATO center will be established to take over most of the coordination for a more reliable flow of military equipment and training that Ukraine needs. The alliance also pledged to provide Ukraine with a minimum funding of $43.28 billion in military aid within the next year.
We will meet President Zelensky tomorrow in the NATO-Ukraine Council, but today we took major decisions to further strengthen our support and to share the burden. We agreed to launch NATO security assistance and training for Ukraine.
NATO Secretary General Jens Stoltenberg said that during the meeting, leaders decided to take further steps to bring Ukraine even closer to NATO. The alliance also pledged to continue support on an irreversible path to full Euro-Atlantic integration, including NATO membership. But Stoltenberg also highlighted that NATO will only be in a position to extend a membership invitation to Ukraine when the war with Russia is over, when the allies agree and conditions are met. The alliance condemned Russia's rhetoric as well as nations enabling Russia's war, including the stationing of nuclear weapons in Belarus, as well as Iran and North Korea for providing direct military support. But there was stronger condemnation for China, which was labeled a decisive enabler that continues to pose systematic challenges to Euro-Atlantic security. The Washington Summit declaration said NATO remains committed to taking all necessary steps towards a nuclear deterrence mission, saying it would enhance integrated air and missile defense. Yoon, Arirang News.
The first batch of U.S.-built F-16 fighter jets are being transferred to Ukraine after approval was first given by President Biden last August. U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken, speaking at the NATO Summit in Washington on Wednesday, said the F-16s were being transferred from Denmark and the Netherlands and would be deployed this summer. Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky took to social media to thank the U.S., Denmark, and the Netherlands, as well as Belgium and Norway for donations that helped to strengthen his country's air force, but also said it will be difficult to fight against Russia until the country has 128 fighter jets. Now, for security reasons, the number of fighter jets being transferred has not been revealed. South Korea's cooperation with NATO goes back nearly 2 decades, starting when they first initiated a dialogue in 2005 on ways to uphold the rules-based international order. Our Lee Si-hoo highlights the history of the partnership bolstered through the years.
South Korea's cooperation with the North Atlantic Treaty Organization dates back to 2005 when their first dialogue began. A year later, in 2006, South Korea became a non-member partner state of the alliance. The partnership has strengthened over the years, and South Korea today is one of the major NATO partners in the Indo-Pacific. But how exactly did Seoul, located halfway across the globe from Europe and the Atlantic, come to establish a comprehensive partnership with its allies in responding to emerging issues? In 2012, Seoul signed the Individual Partnership and Cooperation Program, which laid out the first key areas of cooperation, including cyber defense and anti-terrorism. But the major milestones came in more recent years amid growing global geopolitical tensions. In June of 2022, President Yoon, shortly after his inauguration, attended the NATO Summit in Spain. This marked the first attendance by a South Korean president. In November of the same year, Seoul established a diplomatic mission to NATO at its Brussels headquarters. This mission aims to facilitate enhanced dialogue and information sharing. By 2023, the key areas of cooperation agreed upon in 2012 were developed into more concrete objectives, with a detailed schedule for practical implementation. They named it the Individually Tailored Partnership Program.
ITPP 개별 맞춤형 이런 프로그램들을 만들어서 협력의 틀을 제도화하고 그리고 나토와 군사 정보와 사이버 분야의 협력에 관한 논의를
Today, Seoul and NATO prioritize cooperation in cyber defense, new technologies, and arms control, including the non-proliferation of weapons of mass destruction, as well as other shared cross-regional issues, not just limited to defense. It's expected that Yoon's third summit attendance this year will facilitate the joint efforts of South Korea, a global pivotal state, and its like-minded allies in promoting the common values of freedom, peace, and prosperity. Lee Si-hoo, Arirang News.
In line with what was widely expected, Seoul's central bank has announced it is keeping its benchmark interest rate steady for the 12th session in a row at 3.5%. Lee Soo-jin reports.
South Korea's central bank has yet again left its benchmark interest rate unchanged at 3.5%. The decision was announced on Thursday following the first Monetary Policy Committee meeting for the second half of the year.
We have decided to maintain a tightened monetary policy as there is still a need to monitor inflation, as well as the impact of rising household debt and the volatile foreign exchange market.
This is the 12th consecutive time that the BOK has decided to freeze the rate. The base rate was last raised in January 2023 to the current 3.5% and has been left steady since then. The rate freeze decision this month comes despite inflation showing signs of easing. South Korea's consumer price index, a key gauge of inflation, rose by 2.4% in June compared to the same month the year before. The rise in consumer prices hovered above 3% at the start of the year before dropping below the 3% mark in April and remaining in the 2% range for 3 consecutive months. And the June figure was the lowest seen in 11 months, inching closer to the target inflation figure of 2%. But ongoing concerns about household debt and the largest ever interest rate gap are deterring the BOK from rate hikes. In June, household loans from 5 major commercial banks in Korea, KB Kookmin, Shinhan, Hana, Uri, and NH Nonghyup, surged by more than $3.8 billion, the largest on-month rise since July 2021. And the U.S. Central Bank, in its most recent June meeting, decided unanimously to keep key interest rates at that 5.25 to 5.5% range, marking the 7th consecutive meeting where the Fed has kept its interest rates at the same level. This has left the rate gap between the two countries at its highest ever at 2 percentage points, raising concerns that the South Korean won could continue to weaken against the greenback. While the U.S. Central Bank's policymakers and projections released by the Fed last month were split over how many rate cuts there will be this year, most expected there to be 1 or 2 rate cuts amid the U.S. making moderate progress towards its target 2% inflation and the labor market cooling. As it's unlikely that the BOK will cut interest rates ahead of the United States, Korea's central bank is expected to ease its monetary policies only once in October this year, after the Fed's possible rate cut in September. 이수진, Arirang News.
And over on Wall Street, the S&P 500 and the tech-heavy Nasdaq continue to reach to record highs. Wednesday's record closing comes after a strong trading on a so-called Magnificent Seven stocks and the prospect of a rate cut. Lee Seung-jae has more.
With market expectations rising over the prospect of the U.S. Federal Reserve making a rate cut come September, Wall Street on Wednesday responded positively. The S&P 500 saw its index close above the 5,600 level for the first time ever, closing its trading session at 5,633.91, up 56.93 points, or 1.02% from the previous day. The index, which tracks the stock performance of 500 of the largest companies listed on Wall Street, continued its strong momentum as it surpassed the 5,600 mark just 6 trading sessions after it surpassed the 5,500 mark for the first time. The tech-heavy Nasdaq also continued its hot streak, soaring 218.16 points, or 1.18%, to reach yet another all-time high closing figure of 18,647.45. Wednesday's record figures come as the Consumer Price Index for June is set to be released on Thursday, while the Producer Price Index will be announced on Friday. Wall Street's positive run also came thanks to gains from the so-called Magnificent Seven stocks, 7 of the biggest performing tech stocks in the U.S. Apple closed 1.88% higher at $232.98 as buyers outnumbered sellers for 7 straight trading sessions. Chip giant Nvidia climbed 2.69% to close at $134.86, while Tesla extended its gains for the 11th straight trading session. The Magnificent Seven stocks accounted for more than half the S&P 500's gain in 2023, as it looks to continue that momentum this year. Lee Seung-jae, Arirang News.
South Korean tech giant Samsung Electronics unveiled its first ever AI foldable smartphone series during its Unpacked event held in Paris on Wednesday. The 2024 Unpacked also includes Galaxy Ring and Galaxy Watch series. Park Gun-woo tells us more.
Samsung Electronics unpacked its slimmest and lightest foldable smartphone series, the Galaxy Z Flip 6 and Fold 6, in Paris on Wednesday with added AI features.
Because life-enhancing innovations should be open to all, we've been putting Galaxy AI into the hands of more people around the world. Galaxy AI will be available on 200 million Galaxy devices this year.
AI functions are now available on Samsung's foldable series for the first time and are even stronger than those on the Galaxy 24 series, the company's first AI smartphone, released at the beginning of this year. Samsung's foldable phones now provide real-time AI translation for 16 different languages during phone calls on third-party messaging apps including KakaoTalk and WhatsApp, and during everyday conversations. The AI technology can even create more sophisticated artwork from simple sketches done on your phone. With stronger durability and a design that reduces creases on the screen when folded, pricing for the Galaxy Z Flip 6 starts at $1,099.
The base model Fold 6 will cost $1,899. Also on Wednesday, the Seoul-based tech giant unveiled its Galaxy Ring. The lightweight Galaxy Ring, weighing around 3 grams, allows people to measure and record sleeping patterns, heart rate, and respiration rate. It can be worn daily for a full week on a single charge. The price starts from $399. Other products, including the latest series of the Galaxy Watch and Galaxy Buds, were also revealed at the event. The official release date for all of the products is July 24th. Park Geon-woo, Arirang News.
The torrential downpours that swept South Korea's central and southern regions have left 5 people dead and 1 person missing. Thousands of people had to evacuate, with many of them still not being able to return home. Yoon has the latest.
5 people have died and 1 person is reported missing from intense downpours in the central and southern regions of South Korea. Torrential rain struck in the early hours of Wednesday, flooding homes and leaving residents stranded. In Chungcheongnam-do province, roads were flooded, and 1 person died in the elevator of a building that had flooded up to the first basement level. With rainfall exceeding 110 millimeters per hour recorded in the central province, 2 more deaths were caused by landslides. In the southern parts of the country, 2 people are reported to have lost their lives, with 1 person still missing. Gunsan City in Jeollabuk-do province saw the highest amount of rainfall recorded, as rain there poured down at a rate of more than 130 millimeters per hour. The Meteorological Administration described the overnight rainfall as a record-breaking downpour that occurs once every 200 years.
물이 차가지고 어떻게 엄두가 안 나갖고 이 이불을 내가 얼른 올려놨지요. 올려놓고 전기를 다 내렸어요. 무서워서.
According to the government, hundreds of homes were damaged and more than 4,000 residents were evacuated nationwide. As the monsoon season continues, the government has stated its commitment to closely monitoring weather conditions and minimizing human casualties. With the heavy rain subsiding, the alert level of the Central Disaster and Safety Countermeasures Headquarters was lifted on Wednesday night, and the nationwide landslide crisis alert has been downgraded from serious to caution. However, due to continuous rain, the government has cautioned about the potential for landslides due to weakened ground conditions. The Korea Meteorological Administration forecasts cloudy weather in southern regions and rain in Jeju Island for the weekend. Yoon, Arirang News.
Good afternoon. Monsoon rain takes a break on the mainland today, but you still need to keep an umbrella handy as there will be passing rain. It could pour down once it starts to rain. Meanwhile, Jeju Island will see monsoon rain through tomorrow with up to 80 millimeters in the forecast. The heat advisory remains in place for the capital, parts of Gyeonggi-do and Gangwon-do province. Skies could turn cloudy or sunny like yesterday with sudden showers, so brace for weather swings with very high humidity. Feels like temperatures will be higher than what the thermometer shows today. Seoul gets up to 31 degrees Celsius. Daejeon and Gyeongju will see a high of 29 degrees. Now, monsoon rain is in the forecast for Jeju through early next week, while central regions will see passing rain instead. And with the heat and humidity, it's essential to take care and protect yourselves from foodborne illness around this time. Remember, food safety is a must. With that in mind, let's take a look at the international weather conditions.
That's all we have at this hour. Arirang News will be back at 2 p.m. Korea time. Thanks for watching.